Welcome to a new kind of truth. This podcast will broadcast a new gospel that will feel like church, where the pews are filled with the hues of the human condition. Folks searching for something, cause we all going through a similar kind of something, all of us looking for a message, so no need to sit in the back. Come to the front, learn a lesson, get a blessing. You probably came to be entertained or hear the choir sing, but you're about to feel the thoughts of a purpose-driven woman. No sugarcoating, all truth, straight, no chaser. Here to get down to the heart of the matter, so be prepared to peel back the layers. Pour your wine, open up your mind, and let's unwind to the rantings of Danny.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I appreciate you all joining me for this third episode on racism in America. So I am doing something kind of outside the box for me tonight. I'm actually going to record this while I'm on Facebook Live and see if we can't have a little bit more interaction and some actual live discussion and conversation at the same time. So just bear with me. Hopefully all of this is going to work out the way that I want it to. So we'll take a gander at it. Hey, Anthony, how are you? Nice to see you. So let me just go ahead and tell you, if you have not subscribed already, please do that. We are available on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud. In 2 weeks, it'll be iHeartRadio on Spotify as well. Also on Spreaker. So follow, subscribe, all of that goodness so that we can continue to have this conversation. It is not a conversation that I want to have by myself. So I do want you to email me. You can email me at danny@therantingsofdanny.com. The Facebook page is The Rantings of Danny. And this is a new podcast. And I'll just go ahead and explain the mission. For those of you guys who are joining for the first time on Facebook Live and maybe you haven't had a chance to listen to the podcast yet, the goal of the podcast is to have conversations that, tackle some of the hard topics that are out there, whether that's racism, whether that's feminism, whether that's MGTOW, whether it's politics, a lot of those things that are out there, so that we can begin to have a respectful dialogue that generates some understanding, some empathy. And if nothing else, at the end of the day, maybe we can just agree to disagree, but from a place of respect that allows everybody to live in a way that is, tolerant, not just tolerant even, but even understanding and accepting of each other. Like that's the goal for what I'm putting together, with the hopes of this podcast. So that's what I'm hoping to achieve. This is not a place to debate or try to make somebody right or make somebody wrong. This is a place to be able to have a legitimate conversation. So for those of you guys who are joining me, like I said, on Facebook Live, I am recording right now for the podcast episode. So I do want to have some conversation. I won't be able to greet everybody like I usually do, but I appreciate you joining. And so let's just dive right in. So one of the things that I want to talk about on this episode that I'm not sure folks are really aware of, and it wasn't until I started to do a lot of research that it became very, very clear to me that we have a problem. And if you don't think it's a problem right now, I think it's problematic for me moving forward in this country. And so I want to just kind of break some news to you guys in case you're not aware. So we have currently somewhere between 8 and 17 white nationalists, white supremacists who are running for office. Now, it depends upon how you define that, right? So I've looked up several of the definitions, and so let me just give them to you so we can all talk about the same things and make sure that we're on the same sheet of music and kind of understanding the verbiage that we're using. Because, I've said it before in the previous 2 episodes of the podcast, language is extremely important. To be able to define and understand what we mean by the words that we use is really critical to being able to understand each other and our viewpoints and what we're trying to say and communicate with each other. So I think that you first have to understand that racism alone, on its own, right, is when you believe that it's the primary determinant of human traits and capacities, and that racial differences produce an inherent superiority of a particular race. That's racism as it's defined, just across the board. Now, there are other folks who have added additional definition to that and said that in order for you to be in a position to be racist, that you also have to have the economic means to be able to hold down another particular group of people. That's not what is defined in the dictionary. I know some people go by that, but we're just going to kind of play around with some of this terminology. Now, The definition of a white supremacist is a person who believes that the white race is inherently superior to other races and that white people should have control over people of other races. So when you start to really kind of take a look at some of these definitions, and then you learn that between 8 and 17 white supremacists or people who associate with, are affiliated with, or support white nationalists or white supremacist ideas are running for office, that might make us want to step back a little bit. And I want to be really, really clear. I happen to be of the belief that you can be pro-black or pro-people of color and not anti-white, right? So I think the thing for me is where we get into this place where in order to be pro something, you have to be anti something else. I just don't believe that has to be the case. And so this is the thing that I want us to really focus in on in this conversation. So another thing with my podcast is I don't believe in starting conversations based on rumors or just, oh, it might be this, it might be that. No, let's talk facts. Let's read words. Let's actually see what comes out of the mouths of people, what their behaviors are, what they're saying and what they're doing. And then let's make our determinations based on those things. It just makes sense to me. Call me crazy. But that's really what I prefer to do. So facts. According to the Anti-Defamation League Center on Extremism, hate crimes in major cities and across the U.S. in 2017 went up by 20%. Last year in 2017, 18 people were killed by white supremacists. People who identify as such, claim to be such, killed 18 people last year. And it's a dramatic increase than the years prior, okay? And for people who say, well, I don't really know, some people say, well, you can't blame Trump, you can blame Trump. Let's just talk about the facts. The facts are hate crimes in major cities are up 20%. 18 people died last year. At the hands of white supremacists. That's not acceptable in my opinion. Let's talk about a couple of other things. Facts. Between 8 and 17 white supremacists are running for office openly and are proud about that fact. 9% of Americans now believe that it is okay for neo-Nazis to run for political office in this country. Amongst Trump supporters who were surveyed in this study, that number rises and it almost doubles to 17%. That again is earth-shatteringly shocking to me that we have this belief system. So here's the thing. I don't have a problem with your beliefs. You can believe whatever you want to. I'm down for that. That is your American right to believe what you want. However, I believe that if you are openly saying that you believe a particular group of people are superior based on the color of their skin, then that to me means that you are not fit to govern and lead and make choices that impact the lives of the other people who you think you should control over or that you're superior over. To me, that just makes common sense. Call me crazy, but I kind of think that just would seem reasonable, Feel free to chime in with me, as I go through this process, guys, and let me know what you're thinking as I'm kind of giving you a little bit of these numbers and a little bit of this information. Now, if you'll remember who James Alsup is, he is the gentleman who was part of the Charlottesville white supremacist march, where a lot of people were injured, and the young girl lost her life, and he was crying about it wrecked his career and so forth and so on. Well, he went to college in Washington State. To give you an idea, here's what's just happened. He has been elected as the GOP's committee officer for Precinct 129 in Whitman County in Washington State. Their website claims that PCOs are the backbone of the Republican Party. So now we have him, and let me just tell you his quote. This is a quote that he gave when he was being interviewed. He said, identity Evroperas, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about them in just a second. He was being interviewed on their podcast. They have a podcast. They're very much into white nationalism, and he was being interviewed recently on their podcast, and this is what he said. The infiltration of mainstream politics by white nationalists will take some time, but he's confident that they can make significant inroads. This is the plan. This is what's happening. So let me just back up and give you a little bit of information about Identity Evropera. I hope I'm saying their name right. Y'all know I'm kind of new to this thing, but this is important information that I think that we have to see. And this is not about, I want to be really, really clear. This is not about black and white. This is about our country. We all live here together. This is home for us. And, we need to be mindful of the direction that we're going. Neither extreme is okay with me. And so I think it's important for us to have this information and for us to get away from just mainstream media and be able to look up information, find it out for yourself. Let's chew the fat. Let's talk about it. Let's see it. And let's call a thing and not act like we don't know what's going on. Y'all with me on that? So here we go. I went to Identity Evropa's website, and let me give you the link that I'm using. It is their action report, and I'm putting it in the chat right now on Facebook Live for you guys. But I want to read to you their action report that's on their website, just what I think is an important piece of it, okay? And this is what they talk about. They said they attended this year's Conservative Political Action Conference hosted at the Gaylord Hotel in National Arbor, Maryland. The event featured many noteworthy figures, including Donald Trump and Nigel Farage. I attended CPAC with another member of Identity Evropa leadership on Friday. After we arrived, we met up with another IE member, IE members throughout the day. Some traveled alone, others attended the conference. I'm going to skip this part because it's not important. He talks about sharing their idea and their concept, identitarianism, with the people that were there at this conservative convention. And this is what he said that I think is really, really important, okay? Some of the speakers, I'm actually reading from the site. Some of the speakers, most notably Marine Le Pen, did focus on issues like immigration and national identity. However, CPAC was defined predominantly by concerns over economic issues, taxes in particular. Thankfully, younger attendees disliked this and instead wanted to hear more about Trumpian things like immigration and the wall. This is a good sign because while these issues are not exclusively identitarian, mulling over them for long enough will surely lead one to identitarian conclusions. And although Identity Evropa is not a political organization, I strongly encourage our members to become active in politics. This can take many forms, including joining the College Republicans or running for local office. Trump has given us an opportunity to transform the GOP from a vehicle for conservatism to one for nationalism, and it's up to us to seize the opportunity. That concerns me, and it just blows my mind that we live in a country where this is okay. So if you are open, you are entitled to your beliefs. And by the way, let me just say this: I would absolutely feel the same way if it was someone who was a person of color running for office and their platform was not just being pro-minorities, but if it was anti-white. I would have the same viewpoint, because how can you make decisions and choices and create laws and leadership when you believe another group of people to be, less than you are, when you believe another group of people to be, inferior to you, and you don't think that they deserve basic human rights, if you think that they don't deserve to be able to vote, if you want segregation, if you want all of those things, and you think that they don't deserve to be who they are, how can you separate that? Am I supposed to believe that? Am I supposed to believe that when you go and you sit down and you take a vote and you read a bill, that all of a sudden those personal beliefs that you have somehow aren't there anymore? I just don't buy it. And I think that that's something that we should be absolutely concerned about. And I don't know, maybe I'm the only one. Maybe no one else is kind of picking up on this and picking up what I'm putting down. But I would think so. I would think that it's something that would concern us. So let me just go a little bit further. When they talk about who they are, if you go to their main site, this is what they say. They fight for hold on a second. I almost had it and then I just lost it because I clicked back too far. This is what it says. We fight for a vision of the world that is both traditional and Faustian, that allies enrootment and disinstallation, the citizens' freedom and imperial service to the community as a people, passionate creativity and critical reason, and unshakable loyalty and an adventurous curiosity. Now, if you're wondering what it means when he says that they fight for a vision of the world that is both traditional and Faustian, well, you got to understand what he means when he says Faustian. Faust is a German astronomer and necromancer reputed to have sold his soul to the devil and believes in white supremacy. So they're not like hinting at it. They're being very clear about what the goal is and what and what the strategy is. You heard James Alsop say it. He said the infiltration of mainstream politics by white nationalists will take some time, but I'm confident we're going to be able to do that. We're going to get some inroad there. Now, in case y'all think I'm BSing you, Corey Stewart just won the GOP primary last night in Virginia. Corey Stewart is a far-right extremist. He won the GOP primary on Tuesday, and he will face off against former vice president candidate and incumbent Senator Tim Kaine in the 2018 midterm elections. He has an enthusiastic support for Confederate symbols and monuments. He's a fierce opponent of immigrants, and he's embraced shameless fear-mongering tactics and so forth and so on. He has also allied himself with Jason Kessler. If you don't know who that is, Jason Kessler, who is the man who led the neo-Nazi marches in Charlottesville that resulted in Heather Heyer's death. So we have elected, not me because I don't live in Virginia, but the state of Virginia has elected a GOP candidate who is aligned with a neo-Nazi who organized Charlottesville. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of more information, and then I want to hear from you. So I know some of you guys are on here and you haven't really said much. Maybe I'm giving you too much information too fast, but I just want you to take it in for just a second. And I want to know, especially because I know some of you guys are on here and I know you're from back home. And, you know, sometimes I think that when we state facts about what's happening, it comes off as being anti-white. That's not what this is. What this is a wake-up call for us to realize and call a thing a thing. Like, we can't pretend that this is not happening. We can't pretend like these facts aren't present and right in front of our face. We just, it's not prudent to do so. Our country, our society, our communities are at stake, and we have to pay attention to what's happening. So let me just go ahead and give you a little bit of a breakdown about some of the folks that are running. And I'm going to show you some pictures because, of course, I printed them off. So this first candidate that I'm going to talk about is Arthur Jones. Has anybody heard of Arthur Jones? So let me just see. Can you see? That's Arthur Jones right there. And here's the deal. He's been a long time neo-Nazi, and he's poised to be the Republican nominee for a seat in Congress representing parts of Chicago and its suburbs. His campaign website includes a document called the Holocaust Racket. He believes the Holocaust did not happen. It describes the well-documented genocide of 6 million Jews by German Nazis, and he calls it the biggest black lie in history. And he's running for office. Who thinks that that's okay? In what world is that okay? Last year, he spoke at a rally in Kentucky for the National Socialist Movement, which is a prominent neo-Nazi group. This is the 6th time he's run. I don't understand why this is okay. Can y'all explain to me why this is okay? And why, if we bring it up, is it not okay? Why am I not supposed to question this? Why am I not supposed to have concerns? How can this person adequately represent me or any other person of color in this country? How can he do that? I don't believe that he can. If he has a view that says, I'm less than he is, and that in turn means that I'm not entitled to certain things and shouldn't have certain things, or that he's superior than I am, how can he govern properly? What is going on with our government, this beautiful United States of America, where this is happening? And I guess what's frustrating for me is I don't understand. You hear a lot of the Republican Party saying, oh, they don't represent us, and we adamantly denounce him. Well, you adequately don't keep him from representing your party. So what is that? You're like half-assing it, and I don't get it. Like, either it's okay or it's not okay. Either he represents the Republican Party or he doesn't, right? Let's keep going. Paul Nealon, he's one of my favorites, because the hatred that comes from his mouth makes me sick to my stomach. So Paul Nealon is this gentleman right here, right? And this is what Paul Nealon, let me just read you one of his best quotes that I found. This is literally a quote from him. And he said, Jews commit a disproportionate number of mass shootings. Wisconsin Republican congressional candidate Paul Nealon lied on Facebook recently. Earlier, he had tweeted, "Poop, incest, and pedophilia. Why are those common themes repeated so often by Jews?" The United States was intended to be white. I don't see why we had to have the Fair Housing Act. That's this guy right here. America, I want to know, did I sign up and serve my country for this? Did I do that? How is this okay? What do y'all think? I have white friends that are listening on Facebook Live right now. Talk to me. I want to understand. I want to get it. Because I think he's entitled to feel the way that he feels. I just don't believe that he should be able to hold a public office with these views. And I get the fact that a lot of people have them and they keep them quiet, right? Get that, got that. We see that in sentencing all the time. But this is not keep it quiet. This is blatant in your face. This country was intended to be white, so F you, pretty much. Sean Donahue is running in Pennsylvania. This guy right here. See him? All right, here we go. He issued a 9-page statement because he was invited to speak at a forum for the Republican primary. And when the venue found out, when the other people found out he was coming, they refused to be there. So he issued a 9-page statement on his campaign website expressing dismay that white people are becoming a minority in the U.S. and claiming that Black Lives Matter and Antifa are preparing an armed insurgency. He defended his association with David Duke, which, as you know, is is the Ku Klux Klan leader, right? Whom he's featured as a guest on his online talk show. In 2015, Donahue ran for mayor of Hazleton, Pennsylvania, as a member of the American Freedom Party, which the Southern Poverty Law Center describes as a white nationalist group. I get it. So this is Natalie, I think that we all have a ton of different ethnic backgrounds. Thank you for speaking up, by the way. Here's my thing. I have tons of people. So I had after one of my Facebook friends watched the first episode, How Much Melanin is Okay. She inboxed me because she grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood with predominantly white schools, a lot of white friends, and all of that. But now she sees a lot of their comments and a lot of their posts on Facebook, and she feels conflicted because she's like, holy crap, they don't even know that they're racist. You know what I mean? They don't even get it. And she was like, I don't know what to say. She was up at like 1, 2 in the morning because she can't sleep. Because she has no idea how to have this conversation. How do you say to people, you are hurting me because I thought that you loved me. I thought that you liked me. I thought that you appreciated me. And yet when I see what you're saying online, obviously there's a breakdown somewhere. How do we have these conversations with each other? So Jennifer says, I'm white and just ashamed of my own kind. And here's my thing. I don't want that to be the case either, right? Because somewhere, again, I'm going to go back to yesterday's episode. Yes, he is your president, right? Somewhere, something happened that this belief system has been passed down from generation to generation like it's okay. I truly believe if you listen to what they're saying, it's fear-based. All they're talking about is whites are going to become a minority and, there's going to be this takeover and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so it's from a place of fear. And what the fear is that, oh my God, if we become the minority, they're going to do to us everything that we've done to them. And, turnabout might be fair play, but I don't really think that that's the solution either, because then you just have this tit for tat going back and forth and nobody wins. You get a lot of hurt, you get a lot of pain, you get no progress, and you get a scary place for our babies to grow up. What do we want this world to be like for our children and our children's children? What are we doing right now? John Abar, when we talk about this, he grabbed national headlines in 2014 for confusingly wanting to recruit blacks and LGBTQ people to the KKK. Really, dude? What in the world? He also states that his platform is about pride and dignity for whites. And Gustus Invictus, oh my gosh, this guy right here is something that is beyond me, right? He speaks at the Violent Unite the Right White Supremacist rally in Charlottesville. He was scheduled to speak there. He's worked with prominent white supremacist Richard Spencer on crafting a racist and anti-Semitic manifesto known as the Charlottesville Statement. He was second in command of the Fraternal Order of Alt Knights, the military division of Gavin McInnes' Proud Boys, an explicitly sexist group with connections to self-described alt-right. Multiple women have accused him of physical and sexual abuse. How is he running for office? What are we doing? I'm not even going to continue to go through all of them. Look, all of them. That's the papers. All of them. All of them. All of them. All of them. And it makes me sad, and at the same time, it makes me angry. This is the part that makes it challenging, guys. If you want me to be just downright freaking honest with you. When you're somebody like me who wants us all to figure out how to heal and how to grow together and how to understand each other and how to have this conversation and how to be able to move forward, it is really, really tough when you see this stuff thrown in your face all the time. It's really tough when your country continues to let you down and disappoint you. It is really tough. It's between denial and cognitive dissonance, it's really tough sometimes as a person of color in this country to have a forgiving heart and to want to be okay with everybody. You got it? Jennifer says, yeah, and it was in my family, and I say no. I heard my grandfather's words about blacks, but every time I met a person with darker skin than mine, I saw a soul, a person. And some of them were people I respected and loved, so I just couldn't see through his lens of fear. See, and that's the difference, is we have to be able to get to the place where we see each other, and we see each other past the melanin level of our skin. And some of you guys are so quiet. And y'all normally be like, hey, Danny, what's going on? I know that this is an uncomfortable conversation, but I believe that it's a necessary one. We have to start talking about these things. We have to talk about the fact that out of 92 professional teams in this country, 32 of them are in the NFL. Six teams are owned by people of color. 6 teams out of 92 have principal owners that are people of color. In the NFL, out of 32 teams, only 2 are. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the NFL on another episode. But, to give you an idea, I dated a guy who played for almost 2 years. I have a good insight as to part of that thought process and what it feels like to be a part of that group of people. Let me just end on this note. When we talk about last year, now granted, he got defeated and he's not in office. But do y'all remember last year in August when we talk about Paul Kangemi? He ran for mayor in Florida, and he was defeated in August of 2017. But here's literally what he said. So his opponent, part of his opponent's platform was about making reparations to blacks in that community for things that had been done to them. And in a debate in response to his opponent, this is literally what he said. And I watched the video. It made my skin crawl. He literally said, you people got your reparations. Your reparations came in the form of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was your reparations. And if you don't like it in this country, there's a plane leaving every hour from Tampa. Get on it and go back to Africa. Go back to Africa, just go. That's literally what he said, running for mayor. Running for mayor. And I'm supposed to believe that you have my best interest at heart when clearly, sir, you don't. So I would ask my white friends, what do I do? How would you like for me to express my frustration? How would you like for me to express my disappointment? How would you like for me to express, as a veteran, my absolute grief that this is my country? Do I still believe that, our liberties and things are the best everywhere than everywhere else? For the most part. I'm not sure how much longer that's going to be true, though. And that's a scary thing for me. So Natalie says, it feels hard to talk about because I'm white. Shame definitely comes up. It's sad, and honestly, I don't know what to say outside of knowing I'm teaching my kids to love and not to see color as a divide, like whatsoever. And I believe that that's a good piece of it. Like, we have to teach our babies, but guess what? Babies don't even have that. That's a learned behavior. Children don't have that in them, right? So if they grow up in a home where that's not present, they're not going to take that on, right? What do we do with the grown folks that are here already? What do we do about the 8 to 17 people that are running for office who are either proudly claiming to be neo-Nazis, white supremacists, part of the alt-right, or closely associated and supportive of their views? What do we do with that? What are we supposed to do? I would love for someone to tell me, how do you think I'm supposed to feel as a person of color in America in 2018? You know, I think you guys have said the word shame a couple of times, and I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do believe that's a big part of this. I do think that there's a group of people, a group of white people out there who want to be able to say something, but are so full of shame that this is where we are and this is what's still happening, that they don't know what to do and how to say it. And there are situations where when people do want to help and they do want to say something and they do want to be supportive, because they don't know what to say or what to do, sometimes it comes off the wrong way and they get their head snapped off by somebody who's like, okay, you know what? No, I just shut up, Becky. Right? And that's not helpful either. So there's like so many catch-22s. And this is why I believe that it's our responsibility to have these conversations in the groups where we can, where we feel safe having them, where we can take that information and spread it. So for those of you guys who are on here and this is new information to you, or maybe you've never heard it all put together this way, and maybe you're shocked and just completely disgusted by it, tell your neighbor. Tell Joe down at the grocery store. Tell Sue at the mall. Tell whoever at the daycare. We have to start having these conversations that this is not okay. I would feel the same way if someone had extreme black issue beliefs, that somehow the answer was to be radically against, discriminatory, prejudicial, abusive to whites. I would feel the same way. I have both in my family. My mom is white. My dad was black. I don't believe that anyone should have the ability to run for public office in this country and have a belief system that says somebody is less than you. You can disagree with their lifestyle. You don't have to like somebody else's faith. You don't have to like somebody else's belief system. You don't have to do any of those things. What you don't have the right to do is believe that that person is less than you and shouldn't be here, or that you're superior than them, and then put yourself in a position to dictate their well-being and endorse laws and sign laws and pass bills that contribute to the economic decline, or the restrictions held back, pushed down, kept back of another group of people. I just don't believe that that's the way that it should be in this country. For Paul Nealon, who says that the United States was intended to be white, I have news for you. It wasn't white when y'all got here. So, yeah, I think you kind of missed the boat on that one, sir. So having said that, I'm going to wrap this episode up. Again, I appreciate you all for listening, for being part of this conversation. My mom and I will be doing an interview. Remember, I told you that my parents were married 3 years before the Loving case even took place. And we're going to talk about what it was like to be in an interracial marriage in the early 60s, and then to be widowed at 28, raise 3 biracial children in the hills of Northeast Tennessee, and what that's been like, what that journey is like, and to continue to have this conversation where we can hear each other, feel each other, be able to communicate and get some things out on the table. The point, though, is not to make people right or wrong or blah, 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 whatever, even though we know some things are just not right. And here's what I mean by that. You have a right to believe whatever you believe. Your rights stop where mine begin. So your right to run for office stops when you have a belief system that impedes my ability to have freedom in this life. That's where your rights stop, and that's what I think we need to get on point with and make sure that everybody understands. So if you want to email me and continue this conversation or be part of the conversation, my email address is danny@therantingsofdanny.com. If you have not subscribed to the podcast, you can do that on iTunes. You can do that on YouTube, Spreaker, SoundCloud. Those are all the places where you can be a part of this conversation. The Facebook page is therantingsofdanny.com, and I hope to see you there. I appreciate you all very much for being a part of this conversation. I truly do. It's what we need. My goal is to heal, to grow, to love each other, and to create wealth of all kinds in this lifetime. So help me do that, folks. I appreciate you all. Be amazing, be light, be love, and I'll see you on the next episode.